Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, everybody. Today we're interviewing John Zezini. He's a financial advisor with Genovese, Burford Brothers in Sacramento, California. John is a certified financial planner, accredited asset management specialist, and is a chartered retirement plan counselor. John first entered in financial services in 1995 with Olde and became a branch manager in 2000. In 2003, he decided to join Edwards Jones, where he spent 12 years as a successful financial advisor, leader, trainer, and mentor. In 2015, he joined Genovese, Burford Brothers. John is passionate in preserving wealth and building a plan to help families and business owners realize their goals and through retirement years. He's also active in a community where he served 2 years as chairman of the board of the Dorado Hills Chamber of Commerce and helps out as his children's school and supporting his oldest son as he progresses through Boy Scouting. John is a graduate of California State University with BA in Finance. Welcome, John, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, that was quite the intro. Almost ran out of breath. Before we delve in, could you tell us a bit more about yourself and your business?
I've been in business for a little over 20 years, and I do have 3 little ones at home. They're definitely my passion, and one of the drivers for why I do this is, being married with 3 young children. There's a lot that goes on there, and as far as I'm concerned, I also still participate in baseball. It's one of my loves, and I play in an adult hardball league on the weekends, but that really doesn't have anything to do with business, does it? I'm not sure what else you want to know about me.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm just getting a little idea because I've said so much earlier anyway, so it's just getting to know you a little bit better from a personal perspective. But that was great. I mean, so and one thing I'd like to jump in at this point is to understand how you got into financial planning. Is this something that you always wanted to do, or is there such a thing as wanting to be a financial advisor from the start? But if that's so, let us know. Or is it something you fell into?
Yeah, believe it or not, I was when I was in high school, I had my first economics class, and in that class, the instructor had us do a mock stock market game, and I learned from that I enjoyed it, but I also didn't necessarily care for economics a whole lot. But he did share with me that it's something that there's a profession out there known as a stockbroker. At least this was back in 1990. Well, I entered college and studied finance, and once I got done with college, in fact, my last year of college, I was an intern with another financial services company, and realized that this is really what I wanted to do, was help other people, and I wanted to help them with their money because I enjoyed what the stock market did and just all the different moving parts associated with that. So I was one of those odd kids that knew what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. If I couldn't become a professional baseball player, that's what I wanted to do. And my arm didn't hold out, so here came financial planning.
That's awesome. That's pretty
I started out as a stockbroker, which is a lot different, and the whole industry has evolved over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
That's cool. And then let's talk about some of the personal attributes or traits or qualities that contributed the most to your success. And do you think you developed those along the years, or did you already have them?
Oh, yeah, some things definitely had to evolve. When I was younger, I was very analytical. Not that I'm not analytical now. It's just that part of my personality trait was that I was very concerned about making sure everything lined up properly, all the numbers worked. And there is an old saying in this business that says that you can be paralyzed by analysis. And for a financial advisor or a stockbroker or financial planner, that's not a good thing. It's helpful. You need to be analytical. You need to be able to understand those things. But to be able to communicate with people and understand their needs was something that was much, much more important to be successful. And for me to kind of break out of my shell, that was something I had to do. And fortunately, I was able to do that. The early years were a little challenging for me. I definitely was still kind of in that analytical mindset, but I learned to communicate with people. I learned to listen to people. And I'd have to say that the number one trait is recognizing that we have two ears and one mouth. And there's a reason for that. We need to be able to listen and understand what's being said so that we can formulate the correct communication back to whoever it is we're talking to, so that I can identify their needs, regurgitate what those needs are back to them, and then provide a proper solution. And if I wasn't listening, there's no way I could ever be effective.
I always like that image of two ears and one mouth. That's that says it all, right? And
that's true.
And can you give some specific examples of how these traits helped you?
Well, yeah. I early in my career, I used to do a lot of cold calling by the phone, and this was before caller ID was popular, and let alone all the screenings that do exist today. And I was very persistent. I just worked really, really long hours. But one of my first contacts that became a client was a co-founder of a company down in Silicon Valley. And he was a very analytical person. He was an engineer. So I could identify with him on that level. So having some of that analytical aspect, but also being able to learn to communicate, helped. So when I had that first face-to-face meeting with this gentleman, he was surprised by how young I was. I was 22 years old, and he was in his mid-40s at the time, which is, I'm in my mid-40s now, so I can relate to that. But overcoming that age differential and or being the green young kid just out of college, the trait that I think that really helped me with that specific example is the fact that I learned quickly that I needed to be able to listen and then be able to apply what I knew analytically back. And a second example that was even better is where a gentleman who was retired sold some real estate and needed some place to park the money. I had been talking to this gentleman on the phone for several months, and then he finally came in. Well, this other particular client, he didn't care about the analytical stuff. He wanted to have a personal relationship. And fortunately, again, going back to recognizing that we have two ears and one mouth for a reason, that's what helped him become my client, is the fact that I actually took the time to listen to him. So I would have to say that really just over the years, just being able to listen and be able to communicate back with a client or a prospect is vital, and developing a relationship that's meaningful.
I don't know if you noticed, but you're kind of defining what a good salesperson is, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. So. I mean, it's people see it as a negative, but selling a good salesperson is somebody who will identify the right needs and the right product. So that's kind of what you're doing. So that's good.
That's right. It's not really, now you're not really selling anything. I'd have to say in the very beginning, my first year in the business, it was calling people to sell a product. Mm-hmm. And if they bought that product, great, they became a client. Then eventually I could develop a relationship with them. Now it's completely the opposite. It's about developing a relationship first, understanding all their needs, and then providing some solution to those needs.
Awesome. Like a lot of things in life, I mean, nothing is really goes in a straight line, and success is no different. So can you tell us a bit about the major adversities or trials you had to overcome, and maybe combine that with how you keep going when you really hit these walls?
Yeah, I think that boils down to mental toughness. I think all of us that are either in business for ourselves or are in a position where we're charged with keeping ourselves accountable, that our minds are what gets in our way. We tell ourselves that we can't do something because maybe it's too far-reaching or too difficult. Well, if we take a step back and just realize that, wait a minute, if we took one step, that gets us that much closer, and then we just take the next step and we keep going. So I would have to say for me, the biggest challenge or adversity I had was my own brain telling me that I've had enough, when all it took is one more call or one more conversation that just led me to that next opportunity. And, I can't pinpoint any particular points of adversity or trials other than the things that I could not control. And the things that I cannot control, none of us can. What the stock market does, what the economy does, how a client reacts to those things. And for me, I think 2008 was a very, very difficult time. My first child was born in August of 2007. And for those of you that may remember this, the stock market technically started its decline in October of 2007. So my firstborn was just only a couple months old. My wife was no longer working. We were relying solely on my own income. And my income was going down because the market was doing what it was doing through all of 2008. Then I had to be in the office daily, meeting with clients and talking on the phone with clients of people who had lost their jobs. Maybe they went upside down in their home. Maybe the bank's asking for that loan to be called in. Lots of things were happening. And I had to be that rock for those people. I had people crying in my office. It was very difficult for me to avoid sometimes shedding a tear as well. But I remember coming home at night, a couple of times in particular, that I would tell my wife, I'm not sure I can handle this. I'm not sure I can be that emotionally strong for all these people that I'm helping. And, you know, it was really tough. But what kept me going was knowing that they needed somebody and that I could be that person for them. And by writing it out and helping them see through it all truly amplified my business. I would say that within a couple of years following 2008, my business doubled.
Wow. What a great
clients
story.
Sent me more referrals. Clients sent me more money. And I think it was simply because of that one thing. I listened.
Wow.
And I took the time to let them know I cared.
Now let's talk about the future a little bit. Looking forward, what do you think, what's your vision about your business in the next 5 years?
That's a great question. Recently, I made a change to be part of Genovese, Burford Brothers, which we're a partnership here. And we focus on things as a team. Whereas in majority of my career prior, it was really more like a sole practitioner. And so what I envision going forward is, part of the reason why I made the change was I wanted to have other people around me that were like-minded, that could help my clients in case something happened to me. Started realizing some of that at one point in my career. But going forward, I see us growing. Our goal is to have multiple offices with other advisors that are seasoned and have been in the industry for some time that are interested in growing as a team. So I really see 5 years from now being a much larger player in the greater Sacramento area, region, I should say, where it's not just me. It's going to be a group of us. And I think by working as a team, we can serve people better.
Nice. And how do you see yourself marketing yourself to get there?
Well, we have a lot of connections with CPAs and attorneys. In fact, within our own practice here, we have 2 CPAs. Most of us are CFPs or chartered financial analysts, but we do some things with the radio and local news. We put on events. This last Friday, we had a pretty large event where we had over 700 people attend because we had President John Williams, who is the CEO and president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. He was our keynote speaker, along with Ted Iliopoulos, who is the Chief Investment Officer of CalPERS. Then we also had a portfolio manager from Franklin Templeton on the municipal bond side. And then we also had a real estate expert. So we have this great panel of folks that we made available to the public. And I'd have to say that created quite a bit of recognition, and I think that will drive some new business for us as well.
Nice.
So we're going to do more of those types of things.
Makes sense. Perfect sense. Now, there are a ton of misconceptions about working with independent financial planner. What, in your opinion, is the biggest one?
Well, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, whether it be independent or not. I think people are fearful in general because they've never really done any kind of planning in their life. In fact, I've heard some statistics that people spend more time planning their vacation than they do their retirement. And vacation might only last a week or 2 weeks, and your retirement nowadays lasts for years. So I think there's a fear factor for just the unknown. But the biggest misconception I would have to say is that when people come to an independent, they think small company, and they think sometimes they associate a smaller company with less security. So they might think, oh, well, I need to be one of these big known names. Well, we act as fiduciaries here as an independent, and as a registered investment advisory firm, we have to act as a fiduciary. And with that, we don't physically hold custody of the funds. We domicile those at another institution, so the individual will receive statements from that other institution as well as reporting statements from us, so you can see that there's a cross-check, a checks and balances. And in that way, for those of that may be out there that can remember Bernie Madoff and what he did, that's impossible. It cannot happen here. So the folks that have a misconception about working with an independent is, I think there's a fear that they're not with a large company, or there's also the fear that they've never done any planning, so they don't know what to ask. They don't know how to prepare for a meeting with someone like us.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else might be out there.
No, that's good. I mean, and I can see that. I mean, I can imagine somebody saying, I'm going to go with a bigger company versus a smaller one, because we've all heard stories of people getting ripped off somehow.
Also, I think some people are fearful to sit down and have that conversation because they know that they're behind. They know that they have not saved enough, and they just don't want to face the facts.
That is scary. To wrap up, do you have one piece of advice for our listeners that would like to enter into this business?
That would like to get into the business?
Yeah, they'd like to do what you do.
Yeah, well, I think anyone who's interested in becoming a financial advisor, they need to recognize that it's a very difficult business to get started in. You have to have thick skin. There's a lot of rejection. And that's where I was talking about the mental toughness as part of that is, a lot of athletes out there go through a lot of rejection, and they keep going. But there's something that you have to keep in mind is, why are you doing it? Every day you go out and you meet with people and they tell you no, they don't want to do business with you. And then that many more no's get you that much closer to that next yes. So for those that are out there that really like the idea of becoming a financial planner, of course you have to go through all the technical training, but you also have to make sure that your personality type is going to work, where you like to socialize with people, you like to be able to understand what their needs are, and you want to be articulate in how you provide solutions for people.
Mm-hmm. That's well said. Pretty wise advice. Now, how can our listeners learn more or get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to www.gbbwealth.com. That's GeorgeBoyBoyWealth.com. Or you can even just Google my name, John Zezini, and you'll find me. Our direct phone number here is 916-924-7527, or the toll-free number 1-888-924-9350.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sharing all this experience with us. This was extremely interesting and very insightful and inspiring too, based on some of the responses you gave there. I thought this was very, very inspiring. So that's exactly the goal. So thank you so much for this, and I wish you an amazing day.
Thank you, Eric. You're welcome.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.